Let's discover interiors you won't find anywhere else, only on Interior Insights. Hi guys, welcome to Interior Insights. I'm Jane, an interior design student. We are going to look at an incredible industrial loft that is located in a former pasta factory. If it wasn't for the couple, the building would still be deteriorating. The factory is located in Zeitz, which is a city close to Berlin, and it belongs also to East Germany, which formerly used to be a part of the GDR, the German Democratic Republic. This factory building was built by a Mr. Emmerling, who founded his pasta company and then built this building in 1909. And after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the reunification, this factory was just abandoned and the whole business went bankrupt. And this building was just completely forgotten and was for some years a part of these lost places, as you call them. And then in 2016, a couple decided to buy this building and to reinsert some life into this building. Let's go have a look at the loft. As soon as you come in, you can look right all the way through the loft to the other side, where there's an arched historical window, and you just have this unique axis that spans across the entire loft. Over here we have a little entryway area where there's a lot of hidden storage rooms and the bathroom that is hiding that I will show you after. As we enter this loft, we are just transported back in time to 1909 when this apartment was built. All of the structure of the building that we can see today is still original from that period. That means that the brick walls are also still original and they are unplastered, so we can actually get to see the red bricks and we can really feel the energy in the room. To all sides of the loft, we have large windows that span from the beginning of the floor all the way up to the ceiling, and they end with small round arches. And this just brings a great repetition inside the loft and adds a sense of structure, a sense of rhythm, but at the same time we just have all of this light flooding in from every single side. I have really big news to share with you, and that is that I've launched my first interior design journal. I'm super proud of it. I created the interior design journal to give you the same tools interior designers use in their day-to-day life to bring order to the chaos that comes with designing a place. It's a 70+ page guided workbook with zoning and layout exercises, color planning, sourcing lists, styling notes, and much more. If you've ever felt stuck in your design process, maybe you don't know where to start, maybe you have too many ideas or too many pins on your Pinterest board, it's exactly made for you. So the link's in the description, or you can just get it by scanning the QR code over here. Whenever we look outside the window, we are just exposed to the brick facades of this historical building, and we can really just take in the ancient fabric atmosphere of this place. Because this is a loft, we have an open floor plan and there are no doors, no walls whatsoever. And you know, I'm obsessed with whenever people don't cover up the history or the marks that the story that this place went through, but that they really celebrate the history and all of these irregular, imperfect details. You can even see that the flooring changes from here to there. For example, we have both completely white tiles as well as tiles that have been accentuated with little red squares, or in the kitchen area we have black tiles. And this again doesn't distract from the design, but this is actually what makes up the incredible design that we're standing in today. Over here we have the kitchen, and the kitchen reminds me of this rustical farmside kitchens because we have this freestanding kitchen island that is made from wood and it has been painted in this dark hunter green, as well as the back wall behind the kitchen, and it just reminds you of the simpler times and just takes you back into the story. We have farmer baskets, we have a lot of little vases or herbs. All of these little pieces are not just decor, but they really underline the story. So behind this wall, the bathroom is hiding, and these walls that are painted are actually the only walls that have been added during the renovation process, so they are not from 1909. And you can see that the designers also try to show this by plastering these walls and giving them a different finish. And the kitchen actually only consists of one simple black kitchen block and this kitchen island over here, but it's really the color and materiality and also just using these historic accessories that create the story. We still have the industrial style with very industrial vintage lamps that have also been sourced locally. And my favorite part about the kitchen is that we have the small red artwork that just makes the entire kitchen pop. Sometimes you don't need to make really big or bold color choices, but you can just have a monochrome green kitchen and just add a small red object or just a small complementary color. And this is what completes the design and makes it pop and takes it out of being boring. Open kitchen layouts, especially with kitchen islands, are just a great thing when you have guests over or when you entertain or when you cook for your family. And then when you're done with cooking, you can just take the food over to the dining room area. And these are just one of many perks of having an open living concept. Over here we have the dining room table. And again, we have this very rustical, farm-like storytelling because the table consists just of one gigantic slab of wood, and the sides of the table have actually kind of been darkened to add some more soft touches and to make the space more cozy. So we have soft gray chairs that are surrounding the table, and they again act as a soft element just to add this little feminine and cozy touch. And big dining tables are always a great place to add some styling or just to create a little composition. Over here we have two really cool rustical vases that again have a very strong patina and just some branches that have been collected from the outside. And if we go over here, we can see this is a really cool painting, and I wish they would have put like a lamp or something on top of it so you could see it. Because at the first glance it looks like a black square, but it's actually a portrait of a guy, and it's quite cool. It's a very cool painting, and over here by the windows you can again see the historical windows that are still original. Just everything that they went through, the building that has once been deteriorating, and everything has just been kept the way it was so that you can just really experience the history. And I believe that it's these simple little broken moments that just create this perfect and authentic design. Now, because the space used to be a pasta factory, we are lucky and we have these very high walls that allow a lot of play and fun while designing. So we have all of these oversized artworks that again add this artistic and creative touch to the loft. Many people are always scared of placing big artworks also inside smaller places, but these are always a great idea to get out of your comfort zone and create a truly outstanding design. Over here we have the living room area. There's been a lot of play with different fabrics and textures just to create this coziness, and another element that was used to just create this level of comfort is by having very low profile furniture. So we have a very low profile sofa that is kept in this greenish brown velvet texture, or we have all of these different sofa chairs that also have a very low profile, and they just invite you to sit down. And because we have the beautiful historic floor tiles that I already talked about, we don't have a carpet, but instead we have a see-through sofa table from plexiglass so that you can really take in the details of the original tiles. Another thing I noticed in this apartment is the proper and purposeful use of light. So we don't just have one source of light, but we really have a lot of different lighting sources, both from above as well as hanging on the wall or just standing on the floor. And this again just creates this very dynamic and ambient light, and it looks especially beautiful at night. And because the designer didn't want to intrude into the original substance of the building and really just preserve it and mindfully design around the substance of the building, instead of putting all of the electricity inside the walls, they decided to use all of the black electricity cables and all of the piping lines that you need today to accentuate the design. So all of the walls and ceilings have these little black electricity wires around them. And I feel like they again frame the architecture and yet another level and just add this. So the bedroom is just tucked inside a corner, so it acts as its own little space, even though it's part of the big area. The headboard of the bed is again framed by these black electrical cables that go all around it, and they again create a sense of zoning and a separation from the rest of the loft. And because the space is very rustical and has a lot of harsh materials like stone, brick, glass and metal, you don't have a very soft and cozy atmosphere. And to counteract all of these harsh and rough materials, there was a lot of fabric added to add again a more feminine, softer touch to the apartment and just to create more of the sense of home and coziness. And so underneath the bed we have a big vintage carpet that again has a very uneven texture and that just again adds this new type of material, but also this cozy element and just a new materiality to the design. Now let me show you the industrial historic bathroom. This is the bathroom area, and like I already mentioned, these walls are the only ones that have been created and that are not the historical walls. But the intention was to just create a private space for a bathroom and at the same time to keep this industrial character of the space. And when I look at the space, I'm again reminded of these old historic farms a few hundred years ago. For the sink, we have a very cool wash basin that also takes me back to a farm, because I feel like this could also be a wash basin where like pigs or cows drink and get their water. And these historic industrial details are again paired with very modern, sleek, minimal ones. We have a very big round mirror, and it just makes the whole space, on the one hand, incorporate itself into the story, but at the same time we have a very modern and fully functioning bathroom that just applies to today's standards. The floor tiles are the same as in the rest of the loft. They are historic and they have all of these marks, and when you're taking your shower you have new black tiles around you, but when you look at the floor you can still see the remains of the history. And a little detail that I noticed is over here, it says Hauptschalter, which means like that it's the main switch. And I believe that this is also another detail that has just been kept to not forget the history of this place. Hi guys, welcome to Interior Insights. I'm Jane, an interior design student, and we are standing in Leipzig in a historic town in the east of Germany that used to belong to the GDR, the German Democratic Republic. And we are standing in front of a loft that formerly used to be first a warehouse and then a garage. The building was built in the 1950s and it consists of brick walls, and it has just been placed inside a garden. The loft is located in a big forest and you have the nature surrounding you and the sound of birds. And it's a very lovely place. If you haven't subscribed yet, go and subscribe right now. As we come in, we can see that this former warehouse has been transformed into one spacious open living floor concept. And you know I'm obsessed with lofts, especially if they are placed within like a historic warehouse, especially if the details have been preserved. And the loft itself has 120 square meters, and the living room itself already has 100 square meters. And when the designer decided on how to basically create this loft, he really wanted to offer a space for people to come and relax and to really feel a vast spaciousness throughout the design. Because of the renting prices going up, people are living in smaller and smaller apartments, and he really just wanted to give people the opportunity to experience the space of the loft. As soon as we come in, every single detail in this loft has its own history and has just its own little story to tell. Originally, the space used to be a garage, and then it has just been used throughout the years as a warehouse, and you can just still feel this very rustic and industrial history of the place. The entire building has been built with bricks and mortar, and both of the brick walls on both sides have been laid free. And you can just still see the historic structure of the original warehouse. The ceiling itself is also made out of bricks, and you just have these incredible structure of the steel beams that visually divide the space. And you just have this repetition at the top of the loft, which just creates this very cohesive and structured design. We have just one very free space where you can roam around. Over here we have a little sofa area, and you can see that even though the geometry of the room is just one gigantic square, the sofa has been placed kind of diagonal to create this more informal and free-flowing design. And we just have this break-up of all of the straight angles that we have here. The designer decided to keep it very natural, to use sustainable materials, and to just keep this rough history of the loft alive. As soon as you come in, this lamp is the only golden accent in the room, and because of this it serves really as a focal point, and it just draws you in, especially if the light is reflecting off of the lampshade. Just is in strong contrast with all of the industrial and more rustic nature of this loft. All of the industrial and more rustic nature of this loft, there is an undeniable sense of groundedness, but it's not really heavy, but it just stands in perfect contrast. You can see that it's always worth thinking about breaking out of your design story and turning an accent into a magnificent, unexpected moment. One of my favorite things about this loft is the fact that most of the furniture that we can see here is actually from Italy, and the furniture here used to stand in Marlboro shops and just serve as shelves. For example, this metal shelf over here actually used to once belong to a Marlboro shop. The designer of the loft used to work in the fabric industry, and because of this he was just able to source all of these incredible and exciting pieces of furniture. And this is what's just absolutely incredible about this loft, because this shelf as well is also from Marlboro. And even the shelves themselves are also marked with the historic Marlboro logo with these triangles. And it's just these simple details that you only notice if you know the story of the loft, and I feel like this is why it's just a very unique space. Over here we have the dining room area. The dining room area is zoned and marked by a carpet that just creates this separation of the space. And we just have this very generous big wooden table with a lot of historic and rustical vintage chairs. And the designer properly managed to create this vast spaciousness of the design. Another aspect that makes this loft seem so spacious and grand is because we have all of these windows. The entrance area is completely framed in glass in the historical or typical black and white square glasses that just create this very industrial New York-like characteristic of the loft. And on one side of the loft we have an entire row of windows that frame and give the wall its rhythm and just add a lot of light accents, and the entire space is just flooded with light and just creates this very beautiful, luxurious atmosphere. Behind me is the kitchen, and these also used to be where you make a sale in the Marlboro stores in Italy. And this has also just been turned into a kitchen, and it just shows the creative genius of the designer who designed the space. And you can see that because we have this one freestanding kitchen island that goes all the way from one side to the other side, it kind of visually separates the different functions of the room. And on the one hand, we still have this open plan space layout, but the spaces are visually and especially mentally, which is very important, separated from each other. The second part of the furniture that doesn't belong to the Marlboro pieces from Italy all come from the 50s, from a gigantic furniture collection. And also all of these historic plates and cutlery are all from this collection. The story of this industrial warehouse has just been told in every detail. For example, here again we have this little gem of a lamp that you can pull out, and it's just this very cool industrial rustic lamp that I love. And before, I already mentioned the furniture collection from the 50s, and inside the historic Marlboro shelves where you used to have jeans, now you have all of these historic books and just beautiful antiques that you can lose yourself in. Now, let me show you the bedroom. The open living room flows freely into the bedroom, and we don't have any doors or means of separation in this apartment except for the bathroom, because the goal was to really underline the spaciousness of this place. Here we have a very calming atmosphere that is accentuated by placing a rug underneath the bed, and this again just creates this very cozy design. The textures, the patina, the unpolished edge, all of these details speak to a kind of lived-in apartment and a lived-in beauty that doesn't try too hard. And at the same time, we have this little pinch of glamour here and there. For example, we have a very luxurious, classy gold chandelier that is hanging from the ceiling, and you can again see that this detail breaks out from the story of this place being a warehouse. Over here we have a gigantic mirror that again accentuates the space. So as you basically walk inside, you can see yourself, and it's almost kind of like a runway. And what's really cool, for the shelves we actually have two USM Halla shelving systems that again are very flexible and just very classical designer icons, which is quite cool. The bedroom is flooded with light because of the grand windows that frame this wall. And we have a very rich and luxurious stone as a window shield where you can also sit down and drink a cup of tea or read a book, and you just have this very airy, lightweight and yet rustical design. Over here's the bathroom, and we just have this very clean, minimal, modern space that provides comfort and that has everything you need. For the ceiling lamp, we have a very cool industrial rustic lamp that has been sourced from Paris. And again, it draws the connection to the history of the space. We have two very elegant golden light sconces on both sides of the mirror that illuminate your face when you look at it. Let me know what you thought of this loft in the comments. This loft has definitely been one of my favorite places I've ever filmed. I think my favorite piece of the loft were definitely the historic brick walls. Hi guys, welcome to Interior Insights. I'm Jane, and we are standing in front of a former cotton spinning mill. This warehouse is located in Leipzig, which is a small city in the east of Germany, and it is very close to Berlin. And in the east of Germany, we used to have a lot of industry, but after the fall of the Berlin Wall, all of this industry went away and the DDR, the former East Germany, collapsed. And what was left after that is that we just had all of these empty standing industrial buildings that didn't have any functionality or didn't serve a purpose anymore. And during that times, a lot of students or artists moved here and used these walls to turn them into lofts, to create their art, to just have these creative spaces for expressing themselves or painting. And today, these artists turn these spaces into incredible industrial lofts that we will have a look at today. If you want to check out the loft, you can actually book it. The link is in the description. Now, in industrial buildings, you always have these beautiful, iconic windows that characterize them, but if you have that much window space, usually you always have a big heating problem because the big windows just let in a lot of Germany's cold in the winter. But the artists got quite lucky here because to be able to spin cotton, you always need consistent temperatures of 23 degrees. And because of this, the brick walls of these windows are actually over a meter thick, so you have quite constant and comfortable temperatures inside. Let's go and uncover the history. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure to subscribe. Let's go. What is so unique about this place is the entire building is built from red bricks that have been painted over. Now, this is the loft. We have a spacious 116 square meters and over 42 square meters of just windows. So the space is just radiantly illuminated, and we have this incredibly warm and exciting atmosphere. Like I already said, the space was formerly a cotton spinning mill. So we have this very old and historic patina and the walls. One complete side of the wall is just covered with these gorgeous windows that give you a captivating view. The windows have these metal beams that structure them and just give the entire room its rhythm and its personality. As we come in, you can see that it's one big space and it's just a bold expression of color, and a very fun and playful approach has come when designing the space. Over here we have another historic remains of when this place was still a cotton spinning mill. We have these historic rustic metal lockers where the people used to store their clothes while they were working. I love it whenever you manage to keep these old historic pieces alive and not take away from the history. We come right into the open living space. And if you want to discover more about how to create your own design and really add some personality to your own design, you can check out the free guide that I've created. The link is in the description. Or you can just scan the QR code. We have a table with a lot of chairs where you can gather with your friends. And all of the furniture is also from the same time when the cotton mill was still active. So we have a lot of vintage pieces that have been sourced. And you can see that the design is just one consequential design language. A lot of the pieces just stayed here forever or were just sourced around the building and around the surroundings. What's so unique about the space is that nothing is perfect, but everything just screams of raw authenticity. Behind me, you can already see stairs that are leading up to the second bedroom, but we will have a look at that later. We have the seating area, and we have one vintage sofa accompanied by two vintage sofa chairs. They are all from the same family, so you can see that they are from one design. But to make it just a little bit more interesting, one sofa chair has been upholstered in a different red fabric, so that we just have this monochrome color family of brown, mustard yellow, and a soft red. The furniture itself has a very low profile, just to accentuate the gigantic height that we have in this room. Another favorite of mine is this lamp that's also very industrial, very functional, and that lets you move and adjust it however you need it. The color palette in this apartment is very colorful, like I already mentioned. You just have all of these vintage 50s to 70s colors that are kept in this little kind of muted tones. And all of the metal structures that make up this building and hold it up, that you can see in the ceiling and on the walls, have been painted in this soft green, as well as some of the walls, and they just provide this crisp freshness. And this crisp green has been paired with warm neutrals and reds, and they just create this very charming atmosphere. We are already inside the kitchen, and the kitchen is visually separated also by color. The kitchen's walls are colored in this very strong, bright red, and we just have a whole nother atmosphere as soon as we enter the kitchen. But because this is a loft and this is an open space without any doors, of course the energy flows from one area into the next area. The kitchen again has some incredible historic details. It is not an iconic designer kitchen with gigantic slabs of marble, because that would be all completely out of the place. But instead we have a very simple stove where you can cook. We have this historic remains of the former lady room. I told you before that this place also served as a ladies' bathroom at some point. And we just have all of these sinks, 7 in total. On the other side we have some more. And I love it that the designers didn't decide to just remove them and think, okay, who needs 7 sinks? But they just kept them there just to show the history. So whenever you're drinking a cup of coffee in the morning, or you want to relax and write down some thoughts, you can sit here by the gigantic windows and just let yourself be inspired by your surroundings and just by the radiant light that is flooding in from all sides of the window. Another piece of history that has been kept on purpose in this loft is the fact that all of the different floor materials are still original. So here in the kitchen area, in the former ladies' bathroom, we have orange tiles that just take us back in history. And in the living room area, we have kind of like a fabric-y floor, and again, big gray tiles. And it's also the floors that visually zone the different areas and just create some visual interest. Because the space is just such a bold and fun experimentation with color, three-dimensional geometric abstract painting that you look at. Also, this table isn't just a regular table, but it's a beautiful vintage table that has also been colored half in blue and half in white. And this again just adds this fun extra visual interest. Another little detail that I love is that somebody just took a marker and decided to make the fridge disappear into the background by blending it in with the rest of the white tiles. Before I show you the bathroom that is also still part of the historical ladies' bathroom, let me show you the 2 bedrooms upstairs. So this is the first double bedroom. And you can see it is kind of like a cave, because we have the second floor that has been built into the top. And the ceiling of the space is kept in wood, so you just have this very cave-like, comfortable nook that you can just hide away whenever you want to go to sleep. The bed itself has a very low profile. And we have 2 different cupboards that are placed on top of each other. And whenever you've had enough of your guests, you just take the curtain, close it up, and you have your own little hideaway. And whenever you have so much space as you have in this loft, there's always a possibility to create little comfortable seating compositions, or just a little moment to excite your guests. We have a very colorful, bright red accent that just adds this bold and fun accent to the design, and a gigantic black and white graphic photograph. All of the photographs here are photographs of the friend of the designer that they've just traded or gifted to each other over the years. So all of the art that we can find here is original and just speaks of Leipzig's art scene. Now let's go upstairs. Now these are the steep stairs, and this second bedroom has just been built inside this loft over time just to create some extra sleeping space whenever you have more guests staying over. Everything is still kept in this very industrial design. We are so high up to the ceiling we can actually touch the metal beams. Over here we again have a very dreamy and minimal design to calm you down at night, but at the same time, because this is kind of like a maisonette setup, and you almost have this balcony situation. When you wake up and stand up, you can just look outside and just enjoy the vast view that you have over your apartment. The walls of this little upstairs bedroom have been again painted in this dark red that is both exciting, but that almost is kind of like this warm hug. And over here we have a little writing station that is also just incredibly creative, and I love it because a former facade has been actually turned inside a little writing station. So here we actually have a window where you can look out, and this little window is again an example of these unexpected moments that I'm always talking about, and it makes you feel like you're kind of living in your own little tiny house upstairs here. The vintage wooden furniture is accompanied by a bright red Japanese lantern that again creates and illuminates this radiant design. This is the bathroom, and this is also a part of the old ladies' bathroom that we used to have here. And up here it still says Damen, which means women or female in Germany. So this is the ladies' bathroom that I was talking about. Again, we have the orange tiles. This time they are accompanied by bright blue walls. We have all of these vintage historic furniture pieces, and nothing is too luxurious because it's not supposed to be. And it's not about creating this grand and elegant design, but one that really speaks of the history of this place. And because this is an artist loft, up here we have fun prints where you wouldn't expect them, and you can just see the creativity. So much of the historic elements in this loft were kept, such as this bathroom stall. It's almost like a little museum that just takes you back in time into the days of the people who used to live and work here. Or another little detail that I appreciate that they kept is this mirror that says Sehen, Denken, Handeln on top, which means safety first. And I think that that's quite fun. Hi guys, welcome to Interior Insights. I'm Jane, an interior designer, and we are standing in an incredible historic pasta factory in Zeitz, a city that is located in Germany a few hours away from Berlin. And today we are going to look at an incredible industrial and rustic loft. This building used to be a pasta factory and belonged to a Mr. Emmerling, who produced his pasta and dough here, and he built this building in 1909. And in 1953, with the beginning of the GDR, the German Democratic Republic, the pasta factory was expropriated and nationalized and turned into just a government factory. And after the reunification, so after the fall of the wall in Berlin, there was nothing left of the pasta factory. And it was only in 2016 when a couple decided to buy this old historic factory that was completely run down. If you're new to the channel, please make sure to subscribe, and let's go have a look at the loft. When designing this loft, the couple really wanted to keep the historic charm and respect the history of this former pasta factory. And so they tried to intrude as little as possible into the historic structure that we have today. And so the floor is still original from 1909, and it has a lot of patina and just this very industrial loft character. The walls are also unplastered and give you this little historic connection to the building's history. And I still think it's absolutely crazy that inside these four walls, where today people live, once there used to be a pasta factory. The loft itself has a long, square, rectangular floor plan to give the room some structure and to create different zones. We have this newly built block, and inside it we actually have the bathroom that has also been beautifully designed. This is the only new piece of architecture and new walls that have been put inside this loft, and you can also see just by the change of materials that the history is respected and that the newly built walls aren't trying to imitate history, but that they are in fact just plastered walls. As soon as we come into the space, we can see that we have a radiant room with a lot of free light flooding inside the design. There's a large window that's still original from 1909 that lets the light flood in and just gives this loft its historical character. Over here we have the seating area, and we have a very classical design of a tulip table, and it just feels very lightweight, and it is accompanied by a gooby lamp. I'm sure all of you know it. And this just creates a very lightweight, free-flowing and modern design. If you're interested in elevating your own personal design at home and just creating an even more coherent design story for your own personal home, I've created a free guide where I share my biggest and simplest design tips that I've learned on my journey. You can go get it, the link's in the description, or you can just scan the QR code. As for the color palette, because the historical structure of the building wasn't manipulated and we just have a light gray floor, white and brown walls, the only way to add a sense of pop of color and to add some freshness was with the furniture. So it's all of the furniture pieces, like these vintage chairs, that add the pop of color and tie the design together. Another way that the designer added freshness and a sense of life in these walls is by using a lot of plants and placing them mindfully. On this wall we have an abstract green artwork of a woman, and in front of it we have a plant placed, and to me it seems like the plant is almost coming out of the painting, and it just creates a beautiful, lively composition. Over here we have the sofa area, and the L-shaped sofa was also tucked in the natural niche that we have. And you can see that the designer didn't try to force their design onto the structure of the building and onto the floor plan, but they really looked at the structure and took inspiration from it and just adapted to what they have. And I am obsessed with all of the patina that we have on the walls, all of the details that weren't covered up, because this loft isn't about being perfect, but just living in these historic walls and appreciating the history of this former pasta factory, but at the same having the comfort of our modern times and having high quality furniture. And you can again see that we have a very calming background with a lot of different neutrals and with this very rich plaster and patina. And to add a colorful accent and to create this little wow moment in the design, we have a colorful abstract painting, and this crisp and bright yellow and white is one of my favorite color combinations because it just creates this very crisp, awake design. When you look at it, you can't help but feel like you just drank a shot of espresso. Over here we have the sleeping area, and the bed was tucked inside the natural corner that we have because of the floor plan. And it creates a very cozy, comfortable design. And as soon as you wake up, you still have the sunlight shining in your face, and you can just wake up and experience the spaciousness of these walls. Now, because a bedroom is always a place where you want to calm down and cozy up before you go to sleep, to give the bedroom area some more coziness, there was a lot of work done with different types of textures. So we have a lot of pillows as well as a thickly textured carpet that just adds this extra layer of coziness. What I love about the space is the fact that the designer didn't shy away from placing a lot of artworks all over the walls. And the modern art just pops off of the historic background, and you just have this beautiful juxtaposition of the old historic structure of the building and the modern, colorful, eclectic art. You might have already noticed that all around the walls and even on top of the ceiling, we have all of these little black electrical wires hanging, and they again give the room their own sense of structure. And the reason why the designers did this is, before I told you that they wanted to affect the historic structure of this building as little possible. And so instead of opening up all of the historic walls and hiding the electricity lines behind them, they decided to keep them visible, to not destroy or touch any of the historic structure of the building. And this is just a very respectful approach to designing and renovating a building that has once been forgotten. And I absolutely love how the black lines also give the entire design their own little frames and just create this extra layer inside the design. Over here we have a fully functional, very spacious kitchen. You can see that this area serves two functions. On the one hand, it's a hallway, but at the same time, it's the place where you cook for your friends or cook for yourself. The kitchen is very minimalistic and blends into the background and into the historical structure of the building. We have a white backsplash and a wooden countertop. It's modern, clean, and just serves your everyday functions. On top of the kitchen, we have a little shelf where a lot of different objects are placed, and they again really add this touch of personality. On this historic wall, we have a lot of old photographs from when the couple bought this old pasta factory and before they decided to renovate it. So that's quite cool that here you have a little gallery of the history of the building. Now let me show you the bathroom, because the bathroom really is one of a kind. As I told you before, these walls that are covered in plaster were added and are not from 1909. And the reason for it is just to have this closed bathroom in this otherly open loft. We have a very clean, minimal, but also interesting design language. Over here above the sink, we can still see the original orange bricks, and they just add this industrial charm. And on top of it, we have a modern round mirror placed. And in general, there's a lot to explore in the bathroom. We have a gigantic sink that is entirely made from a big slab of stone. And all of the materials are very natural and high quality. And for the tiles, we have small white tiles that remind us of the 50s or 60s, but they have this very unstructured patina that again add this more industrial feel to them. As a separation for the vanity and the shower, we have these big industrial windows that are also framed by these steel frames, and they again add this industrial ambience to them. Hi guys, welcome to Interior Insights. I'm Jane, an interior design student from Germany, and we are standing on the property of a former cotton spinning mill. And it is just one big property that has been built in the 1800s and was abandoned after the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 because all of the industry moved away from Leipzig. Leipzig is a small city close to Berlin in the east of Germany. After all of the industry moved away, there was no proper use anymore or no function for this place. So a lot of artists and students moved in and turned the spaces into their own personal lofts or ateliers, and we will look at a 64 square meter loft today that is absolutely incredible. If you like the video, please subscribe, and if you want more information on this loft, just click the link in the description below. Now let's go and have a look. So this is the 64 square meter loft. With this historic building, you have all of the historic details, the creaking wooden floors, the big windows that just let the light flood in, and the metal beams from the windows that just give this loft its historic, classical, iconic look. You can see that it has one open, free-flowing room layout and that the different areas are separated by the floor. So over here we have concrete floor that has been painted in this dark red. And then here we have a step and we have wooden beams as the floor that have been painted gray. And this just visually separates the two spaces from each other. The designer of this loft is an artist who was also living here after the fall of the wall. And he was one of the many artists who lived here and just explored their creativity and created artworks. The entire artworks that you can find here are just part of the Leipziger art scene because they just gifted each other artworks or traded them. In front, we have the seating area, and here we have a vintage table and vintage chairs. The color of the leather has already been stained away by the sun, and it just has this very old patina, and it just really, the space just takes you back in time to when the artists used to live here. Because the ceilings are so high, it's very difficult to find custom curtains, or like making custom curtains is quite expensive. So the designer also just decided to buy two different curtains and sew them together. And then again, you have this very custom curtain design that accentuates the height of the loft and accentuates the ceilings. The entire color palette of this loft is kept in warm browns and neutral colors to just give it this iconic historic flair. On both sides of the dining table there is two halves of the kitchen, and over here we have a little stove where it's possible to make some food, or you have all of the amenities that you could need. And on the other side we have yet again a sink, and everything is kept very simple and minimalistic to keep it authentic and to tell the story of these walls. Now, let me show you the bathroom. It is up here, and we have 3 steps, which is very unconventional. And we have a very big industrial metal door that takes us up. Now, the bathroom has a very different design than the rest. It is much more minimalistic and much more modern because this bathroom is actually the last piece that came only a couple of years ago, because before, like I told you, you always had to go outside to basically the public bathrooms or to the bathrooms that the people used who were working here. And we have a very clean and bright space. The walls are kept in this very strong yellowish orange that just add a pop of color and create this very modern design. And we have a bunch of round shapes that have been added that again underline the modernity of the space. We have a round mirror as well as 2 frosted round windows that add some natural light. You can actually also see them from the outside here. Over here we have the first bedroom, and it consists of 2 industrial beds, and they're really cool. I wonder what they used to be used for, because they're actually on rolls and they just have these very industrial looking metal frames, and they look very industrial. Comment below if you know what their function was. The bedroom has a very minimalist and sleek design. The brick walls that are surrounding us have been painted white to just keep it very crisp and clean, and you just have this very industrial atmosphere. We have a very big black lamp that illuminates everything, and some wooden accents. And in front of us, there is a gigantic, spacious, historic window that just lets the light flood in and floods the space with light and just creates this very lively atmosphere. For the bedside table, we again have a very unexpected solution, and that is we actually have an old drawer that has been turned into a bedside table for actually both of the beds. And on top of them, we have 2 industrial bedside lamps, and I feel like what really makes this space stand out is the gigantic black and white artwork that has been hung above the wall, and it just shows a dark black and white forest and just adds this moody kind of dark atmosphere. And another thing that I feel is noteworthy is that we have very graphic bed sheets, and they again really add yet another dynamic to the design and make it more complex, make it stand out. Also, over here, we have another fun little inbuilt situation, and that is that here we actually have a small library. At the same time, the shelf fades into the background because it is not standing out, but it is in fact part of the wall. Like I already said, the designer visually separated the different areas with the flooring materials and also by adding different heights. So here we have a small step as we go up. But the second genius that they did, and this is actually a very modern thing to do, is that they created a room-in-room situation. So this wooden block behind me actually hosts the bathroom, and the bathroom has been placed kind of like a box into this open space layout. And this really visually zones the different areas in the loft, because the open space is kind of divided into 2 spaces, even though it's still one big space. Over here we have both the sleeping area as well as the living area. And over here is the bed. And you can see that it is very simple to not overwhelm the design. We have a wooden bed that I believe is hand-built. Simple solution that is very effective is that instead of having bedside tables as the headboard, we have one gigantic bench situation from wooden beams, and they act both as bedside tables, but you can also sit in them, and they actually go over into a little platform that is also another seating situation. Over here we have again a very small, thoughtful composition, and we have a vintage former desk that has been turned into a table where you can drink your cup of coffee. Up here we have 2 black and white artworks that refer to the work of Sigmund Freud. Or here we have yet again another artwork from another friend, and you can see that the design is very informal, very fun and playful, and thoughtful decisions that were made. For the backdrop, we have a red brick wall that creates this, again, this very iconic industrial loft character, and it just has a very rough finish that gives the loft its characteristic flair. For the bedside lamp, we have a lamp that has just been hung from a hook, which also just gives you this very temporary loft character. And what I love is that the cable of the lamp hasn't been hidden, but it's been actually displayed. And you can see that it goes all around the wall, and it actually also ends in an illuminated artwork that we have up there. The custom-built bench allows you to sit on it, to store your things. And on top of it, we have a big sculpture place that takes up a lot of room and adds some dimension to the room. And here again, you can see that we have a wall sconce that has been mounted to the brick wall. You can even still see the history of what was built. This sofa niche is also inbuilt and it just provides another little seating possibility, and on top of it we can have an artwork. So yes, I hope you liked the video, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go and subscribe right now. I'm watching you. Also, if you're interested, I started my own little newsletter where you will have some updates here and there, and I've also even created a free guide to help you elevate your space at home. If you're interested in that, you can check out the link in the description below. And I will see you in the next video.